Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Terry, and I'm running for the 325th District Court. It's another one of the family courts here in Tarrant County. I've been practicing law for over 10 years, with the majority of that time being in the realm of family law. I'm a mother of 3. That is my absolute most favorite job to do. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised in a blue-collar town, in a working-class family, in a Republican home with parents who've been married for 43 years. We attended parochial schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. Our family was our church and our extended family. So that meant my friends were my family. So that being said, as an attorney, I think I bring a unique set of values to the court. There is no more intimate relationship other than the one you have with your God, than there is with your family. So I take those relationships very seriously. And I believe that I have the temperament, the patience, and the ability to look at the facts of each person's case and apply it to the law and make the decision that's best for that family under those circumstances. One of the first things I learned as an attorney, I was a judicial advisory assistant for a state court judge. And what that meant is when he had a tough time making decisions, I basically told him how to rule after doing the research on the law and the facts of the case. And one thing that he taught me that I've always carried with me is to treat everyone the same. If I'm given the privilege to serve Tarrant County as a judge, I will treat everyone the same if they come before me, whether or not I know them as an attorney or not, whether or not I know them as a party or not, or whether or not I like anything about them or not. It'll be about treating everyone the same and giving them their day in court. Thank you. How often are allegations of child abuse and family violence alleged in court by a party? As a judge, who do you depend on to review and analyze these allegations when CPS is not involved in the case? Well, to be accurate with this, in answering it, I would have to be present 100% of the time in court, and I'm not as a practicing attorney. However, I observe a lot, and I talk about cases with other attorneys, not specifics, but just general allegations in a case and general legal principles. And in my own cases, I've seen child abuse and family violence be alleged. And when clients come to me and allege these things, I am very, very thorough in my analysis with them to determine whether or not it's something that should be presented in court. When it gets to the in-court level and those allegations are made, a judge has to rely on first of all, the facts presented by the attorneys on each side and the evidence presented. If those things, if you can't flush it out with that, then of course there are third parties that the court can appoint to handle it, such as an ad litem or an amicus, or she can order a social study or something like that. And those are really not things you can do, is hire third-party professionals if you just don't have enough information in front of you to make a decision about such serious allegations. Question is, as a judge, what are the primary circumstances for changing custody from one parent to another? That's an interesting question because there are many different circumstances that would allow a judge or the parties to bring a case before the judge to ask for changing custody, so to speak, from one parent to another. And by custody, I'm assuming we're talking about who has primary possession of the time and then who has their scheduled possessory visitation time. When you bring a case like that before the court, there has to be a material substantial change since the last order was entered. Outside of other limited circumstances where if there's an emergency situation where they can be brought within a year of the last order entered. Otherwise, there has to be a year passed and material substantial change. And that's up to the attorneys to present that and what their circumstances are to the court in order for the court to make a proper decision on that. Question is, as a whole, what are your views on whether our family courts deal effectively with racial and gender bias? I think issues of racial and gender bias ultimately are up to the judge to set the tone in that courtroom. I think in Tarrant County, in my experience, I haven't seen that we have an issue with it, but if there is an issue with that, I would take that very seriously. It wouldn't be happening in my court. And as a district court judge, I would feel that I have an obligation to approach the other district court judges if there is an issue and see what we can do to resolve that. And certainly, sometimes issues are perceived and not real, but in my opinion, when our families come into family court, they're not there because the situation was all rainbows and butterflies and they really want to be there. Even on a joyous occasion like an adoption, typically adoptions don't start out because everything's perfect, okay? So there's always a tumultuous time that someone has been through in order to get to family court. And so giving any appearance of impropriety whatsoever when our families are under those circumstances, I think is completely inappropriate. And if that's going on, then it would be something that the courts would have to look at on a whole to be sure that that perception is not there and that it's not actually happening. Question is, when a party requests 50-50 custody, what does that mean, and do you believe this is in the best interest of the child? Please explain. Well, just I have to say that as any judge or a judicial candidate can't exactly say how they would rule on any particular issue in any case, because we have to take things on a case-by-case basis and look at the facts presented in court and the evidence presented in court. 50-50 custody, for those of you who may not know, means that you share the child or the children equally. It could be on a week-on, week-off basis or whatever rotation that is ordered, but it's about 50% shared time where you have physical possession of that child. And to determine whether or not it's in that child or that particular or the children's best interest, I would have to look at the facts and circumstances of that case and examine the evidence that's been admitted in order to make that decision. But I certainly think it's important that both parents have the opportunity to be in the child's life as much as possible, if it's possible. This is a child and it's part of both people, not mostly part of one or mostly part of another. And both parents have equal rights, and I will start from there.
Hi, my name is Robert Perry. I'm in the 325th District, so I'm going to be voting for the judge in the 325th. I have a question for Cynthia Terry. It's based on the first question. It's a part B to that. It had to do with allegations of abuse.
Yes.
Okay. You said that you would research and have people research to try to verify the allegations of abuse. Let's say that you've done that and you find the allegations to be false. How do you rectify that? What kind of punishment do you have for the people who made false allegations? I'm doing a documentary on a thing called parental alienation, and that's kind of a running theme within that, is that there's a lot of false allegations of abuse. One of the subjects in my documentary, his estranged ex-wife actually killed herself and killed their son. And it all had to do with false allegations of abuse. How would you handle that?
So just to clarify, so your question is how would I handle if I find out from all the evidence and the third-party professionals that I would appoint
That it would be false.
came, and I believe that these allegations were false, how would I handle that? Well, you know, I would hope that, I would pray to God first that the attorneys know that they could actually amend their pleadings for different causes of action or and strengthen them. There's evidence that there's been misrepresentation or fraud on the court, misallegations, false accusations of child abuse or domestic violence. And outside of that, that would also say a lot to me about the guilty party, you know, the lying person's credibility. And I would have to take their credibility absolutely into account when making decisions about the case. I'm familiar with the theory of parental alienation. It's an issue that I take very seriously. It's one of those things that's hard to prove because people say and do whatever they can once they get in family court and they want to hurt each other. They want to take that, and sometimes it is taking a child, you know, just to hurt the other parent. But that's an issue that I take very seriously, and would, if there's allegations of that, I would look very closely for it to see if they're credible or not. And if they are, then I would have to weigh that in my decisions.
What Ms. Terry said, it is not hard to recognize that there's parental alienation. There's red flag behaviors. We can all give you a whole list of these. Go to pasintervention.org and you'll figure it out. There's a whole list, and you can ask these children. So if you're going to take the children in the chambers, take the red flag behaviors with you. There's all sorts of alienation experts that are on YouTube. Dr. Stephen Miller, just put Dr. Stephen Miller, parental alienation. Dr. Craig Childress, put Dr. Craig Childress, Pennsylvania. Richard Warshak, anyone, there's a whole list of them. Here's my question. Have any of you, been to a seminar or symposium regarding parental alienation or gatekeeping or domestic abuse by proxy, which is where one parent takes these children, withholds them, and turns them against the other parent just for fun, for giggles? And if you have not been to these symposiums, why? How will you ensure that all these voters, that you will attend one of these symposiums or do research on this topic?
I would comment on that since it piggybacked off mine, is that I wish I could go to New Orleans this weekend. I believe it's this weekend there was a seminar addressing that issue. I haven't particularly been aware of things locally going on, but as I was looking, I did see something a few months ago that popped up on the calendar out of state. However, one of the things that I do know is that there's typically a narcissistic person behind that, and I do keep a library of books, and there's a specific one that I give to some clients, and I even send copies to other attorneys that they need to read this. It's geared towards both parties, attorneys, and judges, so they can understand and spot these issues. And I think you talk about red flag. One of the first things I always see is calling a step parent or a boyfriend or girlfriend mom or dad. So, and I could go on, but I'll let the other answer.